Have you ever felt your own body betray you? That moment when your vision blurs, your legs give out, and the world starts spinning so fast you can't tell up from down? That's what happened to me on a Tuesday afternoon that changed everything. But what came next? What my own mother did while I lay helpless on the floor. My name is Elena, and this is the story of how I learned that blood doesn't always mean loyalty. It started like any other day. I was working my second shift of the week at the downtown cafe, pulling doubles because rent was due and my savings account was screaming for help. I'm diabetic. Type 1, diagnosed when I was 12. By now, managing it had become second nature. Check blood sugar, take insulin, eat on time, repeat. Simple, right? Except that day wasn't simple. I'd skipped breakfast because I overslept. Lunch got pushed back because we were slammed with customers. By 3 in the afternoon, I could feel it starting. That familiar shakiness in my hands, the cold sweat forming on my forehead. The way sounds started feeling distant, like I was underwater. I knew what was happening. My blood sugar was dropping fast. Hypoglycemia. It's dangerous, and it can hit you like a truck if you don't catch it in time. I reached for my bag under the counter, fumbling for the glucose tablets I always kept there. But my fingers weren't cooperating anymore. Everything felt slow, heavy, like moving through thick honey. My coworker, Jason, noticed something was wrong. Elena? Hey, you okay? You look really pale. I tried to answer him, but my words came out slurred. The room tilted. And then, nothing. Just darkness swallowing me whole. When I came to, I wasn't in the cafe anymore. I was in my apartment, lying on the couch, with the worst headache pounding through my skull. My body felt weak, drained, like I'd just run a marathon. I blinked several times, trying to make sense of what happened. You're awake. Finally, that voice, cold, annoyed, impatient, my mother. She was sitting in the armchair across from me, arms crossed, looking at me like I'd just inconvenienced her entire existence. No concern in her eyes, no relief that I was conscious, just irritation. Mom, what? What happened? How did I get here? She sighed dramatically, like answering me was exhausting. Your coworker called me, said you collapsed at work. They wanted to call an ambulance, but I told them not to waste the money. I drove over and brought you home. My heart sank. An ambulance. Medical help. They wanted to get me proper care. And she refused? Mom, I could have been seriously hurt. Low blood sugar can be... Oh, please, Elena. You're fine. You always make everything so dramatic. You fainted. Big deal. People faint all the time. I stared at her. Too weak to argue. Too shocked to process what I was hearing. This woman gave birth to me. Raised me. And yet, in that moment, she looked at me like I was nothing more than a burden. But then I noticed something. My purse was open on the coffee table. My wallet was sitting next to it. Unzipped. Mom, did you go through my wallet? She didn't even hesitate. Didn't look guilty. Just shrugged. I needed gas money to drive you home, and I figured since you weren't conscious, you wouldn't mind if I borrowed a little extra. You know how tight things have been for me lately. Borrowed. She said borrowed like she had any intention of paying it back. I reached for my wallet with trembling hands, flipping it open. My stomach dropped. The $300 I'd been saving for my insulin prescription. Gone. Every last bill. You took my money? While I was unconscious? Mom, that was for my medication. She rolled her eyes. Relax. You'll make more money. You always do. Besides, if you were really dying like everyone was acting, you wouldn't need money anyway, would you? Those words hit me harder than the hypoglycemia, colder than any blood sugar crash I'd ever experienced. Asterisk, if you were really dying, you wouldn't need money anyway. Asterisk. My own mother, the woman who was supposed to protect me, care for me, love me. She stood over my unconscious body and saw an opportunity. Not a daughter in danger, just a wallet to raid. I didn't cry. Not then. I think I was too numb, too disbelieving. But something inside me cracked that day. Something that would never be the same again. You know what's worse than betrayal? Realizing it wasn't the first time. Realizing you'd been ignoring the signs for years because you wanted so badly to believe your own mother loved you. As I sat there on that couch, wallet empty, body still shaking from the hypoglycemic episode, memories started flooding back. Little moments I'd dismissed. Excuses I'd made for her. Red flags I'd painted green because she was my mom. And moms are supposed to be different. I remembered my 16th birthday. Dad had passed away 2 years earlier, and he'd left me a savings bond meant for college. It matured on my birthday. $15,000. I was so excited. It felt like Dad was still taking care of me, even from beyond. Mom insisted on being the one to cash it. "I'll set up a special account for you, sweetie. Keep it safe until you're ready for school." I never saw that money again. When I asked about it a year later, she got defensive. Angry, even. Said she'd had to use it for family emergencies. The roof needed repairs. The car broke down. Bills piled up. Always something. Always a reason why my future had to be sacrificed for her present. I was 17. I believed her. What else could I do? Then there was my graduation. I'd worked 3 part-time jobs through high school and saved up $2,000 to buy a used car. I needed it for my new job, a 40-minute commute from home. The car was perfect, affordable, and mine. Except the day before I was supposed to pick it up, Mom came to me crying. Her credit cards were maxed out. She was going to lose the house. She needed help, just a loan. She'd pay me back within 3 months. "I promise, Elena. I promise." I gave her the money. She never paid back a single cent. I never got the car. For years, I made excuses. She's struggling. She's doing her best. She lost Dad too. She doesn't mean to hurt me. But that day on the couch, with my medication money stolen, and her words still echoing in my ears, asterisk, "If you were dying, you wouldn't need money anyway," asterisk, I finally saw the truth. My mother didn't see me as a daughter. She saw me as a resource. An ATM machine with a pulse. The next few weeks were hell. Without that $300, I couldn't afford my insulin. I had to ration what little I had left, taking smaller doses than prescribed, skipping injections when I could barely afford to. My blood sugar spiked. I felt sick constantly. Tired, weak, scared. I called Mom, begged her to return the money, explained how dangerous it was for me to go without proper medication. Her response? "Stop being so dramatic, Elena. You're not going to die. You're young and healthy." Healthy. She called a diabetic who'd just had a severe hypoglycemic episode healthy. That's when I realized something crucial. She wasn't going to change. She wasn't going to suddenly wake up and become the mother I needed. No amount of explaining, pleading, or hoping would make her see me as anything more than a source of cash. So I made a decision. A quiet, calculated decision that would change everything. If she wanted to treat me like a transaction, then fine. I'd show her exactly what happens when you drain the well dry. I'd show her what it feels like when the person you've used over and over decides they're done being used. I started planning. Not revenge driven by anger, but justice driven by survival. I needed to protect myself, my future, and my health. And I needed her to understand, really understand the consequences of what she'd done. It started small. I opened a new bank account she didn't know about. Every paycheck went straight into it. I told her I'd been cut to part-time hours and was barely making minimum wage. She believed it because she never actually cared about my life, only my wallet. I moved all my important documents, birth certificate, social security card, medical records to a safe deposit box at the bank. She'd borrowed things before and conveniently lost them. Not anymore. I stopped answering her calls unless absolutely necessary. When she came by my apartment, I kept visits short, gave her nothing to work with. No information about my job, my savings, my plans, nothing. And then I waited. Because I knew her. I knew exactly what she'd do next. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But I wasn't serving revenge. I was serving reality. Ice cold, undeniable reality. 3 months after the incident, I got a promotion. Shift supervisor at the cafe, which came with a decent raise and better hours. But Mom didn't know that. As far as she was concerned, I was still barely scraping by. I'd also been working side gigs. Freelance writing, online tutoring, anything I could do from home. My new secret bank account was growing steadily. For the first time in years, I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck. I was building something. A future she couldn't touch. Then came the call I'd been waiting for. "Elena, honey, I need to talk to you about something important." Honey. She only called me that when she wanted something. "What is it, Mom?" "Well, you know how tight things have been. The house needs a new water heater, and my car's transmission is acting up. I've been trying to handle it on my own, but I need help. Just a small loan. Maybe $3,000? I'll pay you back as soon as my tax refund comes in." $3,000. The same promise. The same lie. Here's what she didn't know. There was no broken water heater. I'd driven by her house the week before. Saw the brand new patio furniture in her backyard. The expensive potted plants lining her driveway. She wasn't broke. She was just addicted to spending other people's money. "Mom, I told you. I'm barely making it myself right now. I can't help. Elena, please. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. You're my daughter. Family helps family. Family helps family. Rich coming from the woman who robbed me while I was unconscious. I really can't. I'm sorry. She changed tactics, got angry, accused me of being selfish, ungrateful, heartless, brought up every sacrifice she'd ever made for me, real or imagined. It was a performance I'd seen 100 times before, but this time, I didn't break. This time, I had a plan. Mom, I get that you're struggling, so here's what I'll do. I can't give you cash, but I can help you set up a budget. Go through your expenses. Maybe we can figure out where the money's actually going. Silence on the other end, because she knew exactly where the money was going, and she knew I knew. Forget it, Elena. I'll figure it out myself. Like I always do. She hung up. And I smiled, because phase 1 was complete. Over the next 2 months, she tried everything. Guilt trips, sob stories. She even showed up at my apartment unannounced, claiming she'd been evicted and needed a place to stay. That one almost worked, until I called her landlord a family friend who confirmed she was current on rent. Every lie, every manipulation, every attempt to squeeze money from me failed, and I documented everything. Screenshots of text messages, recordings of phone calls where she asked for money, then later denied it. A detailed spreadsheet of every dollar she'd taken from me over the years, complete with dates and her excuses. I was building a case, not for court, for something better. Then came the family reunion. Every 2 years, my mom's side of the family gathered for a big weekend event. Aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone. It was the one time Mom played the role of devoted mother, showing me off like a prized possession. Look at my successful daughter. Look how close we are. It made me sick. But this year, I RSVP'd yes with a smile, because this reunion was going to be very, very different. I spent the week before preparing. I made copies of everything. The financial records, the text messages, the timeline of lies. I even included medical documentation of my hypoglycemic episode and the prescription I'd nearly gone without because she stole my money. I organized it all into a clean, professional presentation. No dramatics, no emotions, just facts, numbers, dates, evidence. The reunion was held at my Uncle Richard's lake house. Beautiful property, lots of family, great food. Mom was in her element, working the crowd, telling stories, playing the perfect mother. After dinner, during the casual hangout time, I asked if I could have everyone's attention for a moment. Make a little speech. Mom looked surprised but pleased. She probably thought I was going to thank her publicly or say something sweet. I wanted to take a moment to talk about something important. I began, my voice steady. It's about family, trust, and accountability. I pulled out my laptop and connected it to Uncle Richard's TV. My presentation appeared on the screen. Over the past several years, my mother has borrowed money from me. A lot of money. She's promised to pay it back every single time. She never has. And 3 months ago, while I was unconscious from a diabetic emergency, she went through my wallet and took $300 that I needed for life-saving medication. The room went dead silent. All eyes moved between me and my mother. Mom's face went pale, then red. Elena, what are you doing? These are bank statements, I continued, clicking to the next slide, showing withdrawals I made at her request. These are text messages where she promised repayment. Here's the medical report from the day I collapsed. And here's the prescription I couldn't fill because she took the money. Click, 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 each slide another undeniable truth. The total amount she's taken from me? $43,000. Over 8 years. I was 18 when it started. Gasps rippled through the room. My uncle stood up. My aunt covered her mouth. Mom tried to speak, tried to explain, but every excuse I'd heard before sounded hollow when played out in front of 30 witnesses. You know what's interesting about liars? They're only powerful in private, in darkness, in one-on-one conversations where there's no accountability. But put them in the light, surround them with witnesses, show everyone the receipts, and they crumble. My mother tried to salvage it. She really did. Elena, you're taking this all out of context. I was going through hard times. You know how difficult things were after your father passed? Dad died 12 years ago. I interrupted, my voice calm but firm. And he left you a life insurance policy worth $200,000. Where did that money go, Mom? She froze. Because she didn't have an answer. Not one that would make her look good. Anyway, my Uncle Richard, my father's brother, stood up. His face was a mixture of anger and heartbreak. Is this true? All of it? I nodded. Every word, every number. I have documentation for everything. Uncle Richard turned to my mother. You took money from your own daughter while she was unconscious? Money she needed for insulin? Mom's eyes darted around the room, looking for an ally, someone who'd take her side. But the faces staring back at her weren't sympathetic. They were disgusted. My cousin Sarah, who'd always looked up to my mom, spoke next. Her voice was shaking. Aunt Linda, I lent you $5,000 last year. You said it was for emergency surgery. But were you lying to me too? Before Mom could answer, my Aunt Teresa chimed in. She borrowed $800 from me 6 months ago, said her electricity was being shut off. One by one, family members started speaking up. It was like opening a dam. Apparently, I wasn't the only one she'd been using. She'd been running the same game on half the family, playing us against each other, making sure we never compared notes. Until now. Mom's carefully constructed image shattered in real time. The devoted mother, the struggling widow, the woman who'd sacrificed everything for her family. All lies, all manipulation. She tried to leave, grabbing her purse and heading for the door, but Uncle Richard blocked her path. You don't get to run away from this, Linda. Not this time. What happened next was the most beautiful, painful, necessary thing I'd ever witnessed. My family held an intervention right there. No screaming, no chaos, just calm, firm accountability. Uncle Richard took charge. Linda, here's what's going to happen. You're going to pay Elena back. Every cent. We're setting up a payment plan, and I'll be overseeing it personally. You're also going to attend financial counseling and therapy. Not as punishment, but because clearly, there's something deeper going on here. My Aunt Teresa added, and until you've made significant progress on both of those things, you're not welcome at family events. We love you, but we can't enable this behavior anymore. Mom looked at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear. Not of consequences for her, but fear that she'd actually lost me. Elena, please. I'm your mother. You can't. You stopped being my mother the day you chose money over my life, I said quietly. I didn't do this to hurt you. I did this to save myself. And maybe, if you're willing to actually change, to get help, to take responsibility, maybe one day we can have a relationship again. But it won't be the same as before. It can't be. She started to cry. Real tears, not the manipulative kind she'd used on me so many times before. And you know what? I felt sad for her. Not guilty. Not regretful. Just sad. Sad that it had come to this. Sad that she'd wasted so many years using people instead of loving them. But I didn't back down. I couldn't. Because this wasn't just about me anymore. It was about everyone she'd hurt. Everyone she'd lied to. And it was about making sure she understood that actions have consequences. The reunion ended early that night. People were processing, talking in small groups. Some came up to me privately to thank me. Others admitted they'd suspected something was off but didn't want to believe it. Before I left, Uncle Richard pulled me aside. Your dad would be proud of you. Standing up for yourself like that. That took real courage. I smiled, feeling tears finally come. I just couldn't do it anymore, Uncle Richard. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. He hugged me tight. You don't have to pretend anymore. We see you now. We've got your back. 6 months have passed since that reunion. 6 months since I exposed the truth and reclaimed my voice. So what happened next? Did my mom change? Did she become the mother I always needed? Honestly, it's complicated. She did start therapy. Uncle Richard made sure of that, threatening to cut her off from the entire family if she didn't follow through. She also began making small monthly payments toward what she owed me. $50 a month. It'll take her decades to pay it all back. But it's something. It's accountability. We talk now, briefly, carefully, about surface-level things, the weather, her therapy sessions, my job. But we're not close. Maybe we never will be again, and I've made peace with that. Because here's what I learned through all of this. You can love someone and still set boundaries. You can forgive without forgetting. And you can choose to protect yourself even when it means disappointing people who think family means unlimited access to hurt you. My life is different now. Better. I moved to a new apartment that she doesn't have a key to. I'm saving money for the first time in years. I bought myself a car last month. Nothing fancy, just reliable. Mine. I still manage my diabetes carefully, but now I never have to choose between medication and rent. I never have to ration insulin because someone stole my prescription money. I'm healthy, stable, free. The family? Most of them stood by me. A few took Mom's side, said I was too harsh, that I should have handled it privately. But those are the same people who've probably enabled her behavior for years. I don't need their approval. Uncle Richard checks in on me regularly. My cousin Sarah and I actually became closer through all this. Turns out, trauma can bond people in unexpected ways when you choose healing over hiding. There are still hard days. Days when I wonder if I did the right thing. Days when I miss the fantasy of having a loving mother, even though the reality was never that. Days when I wish things were different. But then I remember that moment on my couch. The emptied wallet. Her words, asterisk, if you were dying, you wouldn't need money anyway. Asterisk, and I remember why I couldn't stay silent anymore. Here's the truth about betrayal, especially from family. It doesn't always look like some dramatic movie scene. Sometimes it's quiet, gradual, a series of small cuts that bleed you dry over years. And the people doing it, they often convince themselves they're not really hurting you. They're just borrowing, surviving, doing what they have to do. But your pain is real. Your boundaries matter. And you don't owe anyone access to your life, your resources, or your well-being, just because you share DNA. Standing up for myself wasn't easy. It wasn't clean. It hurt people. It broke relationships. But it also saved me. It gave me a future. It taught me that I deserve more than being someone's emergency fund. If you're in a situation where someone you love keeps taking from you money, energy, peace of mind, please know this. It's okay to stop. It's okay to say no. It's okay to protect yourself. Even if they cry. Even if they call you selfish. Even if they're family. You matter. Your health matters. Your future matters. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do, for them and for yourself, is to finally tell the truth. My name is Elena, and this is the story of how I learned that saving myself wasn't revenge, it was survival. And sometimes, survival looks like letting go of the people who refuse to hold you gently. We can't choose our family, but we can choose how much power we give them over our lives. Real love doesn't require you to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Real love doesn't steal from you while you're unconscious and justify it later. So to anyone watching this who's been where I was drained, used, and made to feel guilty for finally saying enough, you're not alone. You're not the villain in this story, and you have every right to build a life where you're valued, protected, and free. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is save yourself.